Hi, everybody. Judy Maggio with Austin PBS Decibel, and we've been trying to keep everyone updated on the ramifications of COVID-19 in our community. And one big issue is the U.S. Census is going on right now. I don't know, a lot of us got these in the mail. I'll show that. And I have on with me John Lawler, who is the program manager for the U.S. Census in Austin and Travis County. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So I guess the big question is, tell us how this pandemic has impacted your efforts to reach out to people and have them comply and fill out their U.S. Census forms.
Sure, it's definitely been a game changer. And just to be clear about one thing, I do not work for the U.S. Census Bureau. I work for Austin, the city of Austin, and Travis County. So we are a local effort that partners with the Census Bureau. So our local effort was started, about 9 to 12 months ago. By our county judge, Sarah Eckhart, and by our mayor, Steve Adler. They came together and put together a really great community coalition. And since that time, we've been trying to get them ready to do things like door-to-door canvassing, event-based flyering, talking with folks at trusted locations like public libraries and healthcare clinics. And of course, those strategies have gone out the door in the last 2 weeks as everything's changed.
Tell us about the timeline and how that's been tweaked, because I know a lot of us got these in the mail. I think they went out March 12th, and originally I think April 1st was the time when folks would start going out in the community. So tell us how that timeline's been tweaked because of COVID-19.
Sure, it's been tweaked pretty regularly. So what has changed is that self-response period has been extended at least another 2 weeks. So April 1st is no longer Census Day. What has also changed is a lot of the other more specialized enumeration practices that go on. That's like our service-based counts. So going out with service providers and counting certain populations, group quarters, so places where folks, there's a large group of people based, they can have an administrator count them. And then similarly, like our folks experiencing homelessness, there was a very large effort being planned in partnership with different service providers, constable offices, and local advocates to get over 200 folks out there in the field counting our homeless folks who are experiencing homelessness. And that has now been paused for the next couple of weeks as well. So all this has built up pressure such that the Bureau now has also extended the overall timeline for the census. It had been that July 31st would be our last day for someone to get counted. That's now been pushed back 2 weeks to mid-August. So that's kind of the big picture game changes. Have 2 additional weeks going into mid-August. That does not change any of the urgency of trying to get folks to take it today.
So it sounds like a lot of that door-to-door activity you're trying to do online and virtually because that's where everything's moved, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's wild to think what has changed just in the last week and a half. I mean, I can dig into multiple examples, but we had created these different community groups, community CCCs, and that group then went and prioritized building infrastructure in our different hard-to-count communities, specifically the largest ones like Hispanic, Latino, Black, African American, and Asian American. The foundation of each of those game plans was door-to-door in-person communication. And so that's the really unfortunate thing is we were really about to kick that off.
John, one of the things we focused on at Decibel is the hard-to-count communities. And we've done a story with the Asian community. And this is a group that already has a lot of distrust for the government for historical reasons, obviously. I'm wondering if that's gotten worse with COVID and some of the comments that have been made about China and China being the source for the virus. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, I think some of those community leaders, like the ones you spoke to, would be best to address that, and what they're feeling personally. I do know that group has been the most vocal on our action team about reacting and being responsive to the COVID-19 outbreak. They were some of our strongest advocates locally about trying to pursue the Census Bureau extending its timeline because they were witnessing the effects of being count in their community. Those folks, that the leadership of that complete count committee, the Asian American one, is really an amazing one and very diverse. You have folks from all over different parts in terms of their family origins from Asia, and a lot of different languages, a lot of different cultures. And what was always really beautiful was to see everyone teaming up and going out. And one of those examples was just before the COVID-19 measures started to come into place. I know that local CCC went out to local mosques and were handing out flyers to folks as they were leaving. That's an example of a really great tactic that we were really excited to help support. Our countywide effort printed and provided the bookmarks and leaflets that they were handing out. We still have printed those things. We just need to figure out how we're going to get them to folks.
I don't think a lot of people realize that Texas was one of a handful of states that did not take federal dollars to educate the population about how to fill out the census, why it was important. So you all at the local level have really done a great job banding together nonprofits, raising money, and now I'm sure it's a little frustrating that some of this is being unraveled or at least delayed because of this pandemic.
Sure. I think frustration is the right word. Especially these folks who have been working on this so hard over the last year before there even was a countywide effort. There's folks who've really been pouring their hearts and souls into this. And some of them have looked at me and said, I won't be here for the next census likely. So I'm going to give it everything I've got now. And so I think frustration is the right word. And, I think that also applies to what the state of Texas did. It is frustrating and kind of, I don't understand why, and I won't try to assume why the state of Texas did not put any dollars into outreach and education or even form a volunteer committee. So that was one of the interesting things to me, was that there wasn't even any action to form a body to kind of help coordinate things. And I can tell you early on, when I was first getting my feet on the ground here locally, I was calling around to different cities and counties saying, hey, how are y'all approaching this? It was definitely patchwork. Certain areas, Harris County and Houston, they were really the gold standard. They'd invested millions of dollars, formed a grassroots coalition group called Houston in Action. That was really the tip of the spear on going door to door. We based a lot of our efforts after that initiative. We've been really lucky. We've been able to partner with those different counties and cities. But the bright side that I will really kind of focus on is that had we not spent the time these last 3 to 4 months building out these community CCCs, creating space and having leaders step up to lead their communities and help build those budgets and those strategies, we'd be in a much worse place right now, because we would not be able to react and respond nimbly like we are right now, which is we're able to look at these different community groups and say, how do you want to change it?
And on the other positive side, this was already a very data-driven effort. You had helped kind of design this data that mapped out where the hard-to-count communities were and where the reach-out needed to be. So that must be a plus to have all that data at your hand when you know that it's going to have to be more of a virtual reach-out to people.
Absolutely. It's funny in these kind of campaigns or these kind of efforts, as I'm sure it's with any industry, business, or governmental effort, you don't always know why you're doing something, but it may come in handy down the road. Yeah. And one of the things we did about 4 months ago was form that digital team that has some really amazing volunteers from different nonprofits and different city and county departments on board. And a particular group, Open Austin, which is a chapter of the Coders for America, which has a national emphasis on trying to use digital and technological tools for the census. We had some leadership from them on this team, and they helped us build that map that you described. That it not only identified where hard to count folks were, which the Census Bureau was already showing us, but what it also did was explain to us what the variables were and the measures were that were making that census tract or that neighborhood hard to count, which that was really important to us, not just to know that folks were having a difficult time getting counted, but why they were having a difficult time getting counted. And once we did that, what we found was universally, it was lack of internet access was a huge issue universally, limited language proficiency, specifically English. And then that they were recent transplants, right? That they were moving around from apartment to apartment. The number one, correlation between someone being hard to count and not in Austin, Travis County was actually their status, the renter or a homeowner. So that has already influenced that was going to influence a lot of our strategies of focusing on apartment complexes and rental properties first, and then moving into single family homeowner neighborhoods. So given all that, unfortunately, like I said, we can't do that door-to-door canvassing like we hoped, but our goal definitely is still that as we roll out these digital ads, for example, One of the projects that our community CCCs undertook with a volunteer film production crew was creating local PSAs. And they're all very different, and they're all specifically focused. Yep, and they were scripted by, produced by, and filmed within those community leaders. We're now taking snippets of that. We've developed a relationship with the Statesman Media, which is the advertising arm of Austin American Statesman. They will be placing digital ads on folks' mobile devices because if they don't have an internet-based subscription, they're likely to at least have a mobile-based subscription, that we will place these ads on folks' mobile devices within those specific neighborhoods. So we're still using that data. It won't be door to door. Instead, it will be placing these digital ads on folks' phones in those neighborhoods with the content developed by these grassroots groups.
John, remind everyone why this census data is so important, because it really does impact so many aspects of our lives.
It's huge, and it's hard to get your mind around just because there are some very big buckets we can point to. We can point to hundreds of billions of dollars that are guided by census data. And those are things you can kind of see with your own eyes. When you wake up in the morning, you know, the person who plotted that development or that neighborhood likely looked at census data or growing demographics trends to decide whether or not to build that neighborhood, that apartment. Perhaps the financing to construct that apartment complex was determined by the growth in the Austin area. Then when you jump in your car and get on the road or jump in the bus, federal transportation dollars are funneled through the state of Texas using census data. So I know that some of our council members who represent farther flung parts of Austin and Travis County, they're very adamant about wanting more fresh food stores in their locations. Well, we need to make sure we get people counted, because if stores don't know that there's that many households to support their business, then they won't exist there. And whether or not we get folks counted, that child will still need a subsidized lunch at school. Whether or not we get folks counted, that bus will still be crowded, right? And that cost and that burden of providing those resources that are necessary for us to exist will fall upon us as a locality. So either we get a fair count now, or we're going to have to suffer the consequences over the next 10 years. And I haven't even touched on political representation, which, interestingly enough, when we've gone out and talked to different communities in the area, this is not the number one concern, but you know, those lines, those congressional district lines, all the way down to school board trustee lines, are drawn with census data. And that's incredibly important at a time locally when we're having closures and people are wondering if certain parts of the community are or are not being represented. But then also for the city of Austin, there is a redistricting commission that uses census data to draw districts specifically for for opportunities for folks who are not Caucasian white Americans to get elected, right? And if those populations don't get counted, they don't get their fair representation here locally on city council. So it's a really important issue that I think a lot of times folks either don't understand, or I even have a hard time wrapping my mind around all the different things that the census data actually touches.
Much like the pandemic, it seems to be reaching every aspect of our lives. Final question, John. Give us some nuggets that you just want people to understand and know, because I know that there's some confusion. Everybody's confused about a lot of things right now because our world is changing. What are the nuggets of wisdom that you want people to know about as we move forward and they get these things in the mail, or they're contacted online, or someone in their community reaches out? What are the basics?
The most important thing I think folks could hear right now is that you don't need that envelope. You don't need that letter from the Bureau to take the census. You do not need an online ID. You just go to my2020census.gov, select that you don't have your ID, and you can take it. It takes less than 10 minutes. So that's the biggest piece of information, is just go online right now and take it. Go on the phone and take it. Don't have the number to call 211. And the local 211 operator will connect you with the Census Bureau, provide you that number. There are many ways that you as an individual can spread the word to try to get our numbers up. And then third, and most importantly, if you want to become a volunteer, just go online to our website, get involved, sign up, and we'll plug you in for sure.
Thank you, John Lawler, the Census Program Manager for Austin Travis County, updating us on census efforts in the days that we are facing right now with this pandemic impacting so many aspects of our lives. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Judy.